year to fork Openscapes internally. And last year, Anna was here to give a talk about our experience mentoring with Julie and Aaron and Openscapes and how we plan to build this experience. And the good news is we've done it now. And so I'll talk about how forking Openscapes for Waterboards worked. Also, forgive me, I am recovering from a head cold. So if I need to mute and cough a little bit and do a little pause, that's what's happening. So to understand the need for open science approaches like the ones we have at Openscapes, I want to give you a little introduction about my organization for those of you who might be otherwise unfamiliar. So the California Waterboards, we're a California State Department. We have about 3,000 employees in total, and that includes the state board, which is located in the state capital of Sacramento. The other 9 boards are all regional boards that are based loosely on hydrologic basins and kind of subdivided by population size. And our mission is based on preserving and enhancing California's water resources and drinking water from multiple beneficial uses. And for me, that work includes using water and landscape data to identify healthy watersheds, as well as potential policies and actions to keep them that way. But I also work on lots of other projects like Openscapes and like quantifying trash and plastics in inland waters and monitoring. And so given the diversity of my work, but also all of my colleagues' work and the size of our workforce, and the fact that we are a state agency, this is not just for us, this is for Californians. We have complex systems of people and data that could benefit from these open science practices. And one of the things that our group has done is conduct a data literacy survey. This is Waterboards wide, and this was conducted in 2019. It's presented here in the screenshot from a Tableau dashboard. And I found these results really interesting as we continue to develop open science practices at the Waterboards. And these particular responses are for Waterboards employees, in particular data tasks. And this is for all Waterboards employees, not just our scientists or researchers. But regardless, most people are still pretty interested in performing these tasks, at least the ones that responded to our survey. But when you combine those tasks with various visualization softwares or coding languages, overall interest kind of drops off. And while it would be really interesting to connect a particular data task to a particular software or language, our dashboard fortunately doesn't explore this. But what we learned from this was that emphasis on a particular software or coding language or community would not be effective approach for forking Openscapes at the Waterboards for people who might otherwise be interested in open science. Plus, this really mirrors my lived experience at the Waterboards. So even within my small 5-person unit, we have people who use R and JavaScript and Python and Excel, depending on kind of individual familiarity with those tools. So specifically when we were making our Openscapes experience, we de-emphasized those tools and instead centered our open science work really on this human relational level. I love this figure, so I don't mind repeating it. We're all remote employees, at least in my unit at the Waterboard, so being the bunny or skunk in the photo is really easy to do. And so while Openscapes encourages exploring all aspects of open science with your team, including all the different softwares and communities that are available, we decided to first find and focus on the practices and needs that we had in common, and then jointly moving forward. So we ran our cohort in August to October of last year, 2022, and we designed it accordingly. So much of this work, excuse me, was already developed and is available on the Openscapes website, but I'll go through some of these ideas for those of you who may be unfamiliar. So team culture exists whether we discuss it or not, and discussing values or modeling behavior helps you define and shape your team culture. And psychological safety, or the ability to take risks within a work team, enables that discussion about culture. We also had uniting data strategies. So Ileana Fenwick, presented earlier in this session, gave a great talk during our cohort that is data strategies for future us, and it really resonated with all of our members. And I think the reason that it does is because it focuses on data strategies that are important no matter what software or tools you use, such as standardizing date format, providing data dictionaries, and keeping your raw data separate from your data wrangling. In fact, having people who use different programs could be helpful in securing the details of your data strategies, as they know the quirks of each software and can contribute to that group knowledge. Documentation was a module that Anna and I developed because of the need to reproduce analyses or findings, or even just reference our complex systems for onboarders and for seasoned employees who otherwise need to know that person in order to do their job. And we explored the kinds of items that might need to be documented and the different tools that we use or could use for documentation. And I do want to mention that we built on the documentation products that are focused on in the regular champions cohorts in Openscapes, including a pathway which identifies current workflows in each work group that comes to Openscapes, as well as the next steps that will facilitate this efficient and open culture. There we go. So what is the impact of that initial cohort that we did? We now have these optional co-working meetings in our unit that are really great for knowledge sharing, finding solutions, and discussing culture and equity practices. Again, it's super nice because we're all remote employees, and these meetings help reinforce psychological safety for our team and help new members develop it. This is especially important because many programs in my and other units are headed by a single person. And so opportunities to work together are somewhat limited, but by building our pathway together, we have this joint understanding of where we are and where we want our programs to be. And we can recognize connections between our programs more easily and are more able to help get each other where we want to go. And lastly, by emphasizing what we already had in common in open science, we had cohort members who previously had no interest in other softwares actually express interest in learning R. And this wasn't a goal of ours, but certainly helps build on the impact that open science can have. So I want to end my talk by challenging those of you in the audience to think about open science as not just a change in software, but a change in daily workflow, communication, and process. We don't want to contort ourselves in order to do this work. We don't want to do open science on top of our work. We want to integrate it, and that takes time in order to do. So if you are a supervisor, manager, part of writing contracts for projects in your institution, I really want to challenge you to create spaces for your team to do this work. And part of that is slowing down to speed up. Maybe you do open science work for part of a project, or you publish part of a project to GitHub, or part of your collaboration is through shared documents, all of that kind of stuff. It really takes a lot of time in order to learn how to do this work and then also apply it. And with that, I'll pass it off to any questions.